Hi guys, I'm Danna Bowman, co-founder of Thyroid Refresh and Thyroid 30, and today we're on with a special guest. We're so excited to be with you on Facebook Live. Just a little pop-in for you guys.
And I'm Ginny Maher, the other co-founder of Thyroid Refresh, and I would like to introduce all of you, if you don't already know of her, to Dr. Emily Kiberd. We're so excited to have you here with us today, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. And we're going to be talking with Emily today about the importance of strength training for thyroid patients. So I know in our community, this is something that has been coming up a ton. It's something we've been working on personally. Our Thyroid 30 teams, there's a lot of people really focusing on muscle building and getting so many different benefits out of it. So we're very curious and excited to glean some of your knowledge and wisdom about strength training for thyroid patients. But before we dive in, Danna, do you want to maybe share a little bio about?
Yeah, absolutely. For those very few of you out there who don't know the amazing Dr. Emily Kiberd, she is a chiropractic physician and the founder of Urban Wellness Clinic in New York City. She started Urban Wellness Clinic with a mission to optimize every patient's health so they live, sprint, lift, race, or stand without pain. Her expertise spans several fields, including biomechanics, yoga, and functional movement. She develops wellness programs for large corporate clients and was also a Hashimoto's patient who was able to put herself into remission by using thyroid-specific diet and lifestyle practices, which is what we like to hear and what we're all about here at Thyroid Refresh and Thyroid 30. So welcome.
Thank you.
Again.
I think that last one is, like, when I think about it, like really my proudest achievement. And I actually was writing today that I feel grateful that I had to go through the process and experience all the symptoms of Hashimoto's and an underactive thyroid, because it really, like, it was like lifting the veil. Like, it's time to take care of yourself. Burning the candle at both ends is not okay anymore. And just everything that comes with the healing process. Yeah, I think that last thing was like my greatest achievement.
Yeah, that's so cool, and that's so relatable, and we hear that, you know, not only from a lot of experts, but we've talked about that ourselves. You know, of course, nobody wants to end up with a thyroid issue, but it is one of those life events that forces you to pause and reevaluate and look at all your choices and how they are either supporting you or not supporting you. So I want to let people know as well that you have become a really valued member of the Thyroid Refresh contributor family. We interviewed Dr. Emily on our podcast, Thyroid Refresh TV, on how thyroid patients can get strong and avoid injury, because there are certain physical complications for thyroid patients. She also wrote a great article for us about common physical complications for thyroid patients that talks about things like frozen shoulder, hip instability, hypermobility, and not only talks about them, but gives you actual exercises you can do. And we've also got a couple amazing workouts that we are about to launch for our Thyroid Refresh members in our growing library of thyroid-friendly workouts. So we're so excited to have those on there, Emily. It's been really fun working with you, and I know our members and Thyroid 30 players have given us some really great feedback about you, and some of them have even done your Thyroid Strong program and have raved about it. And I have done your Thyroid Strong program. So,
and I am all in. I've got a kettlebell in my Amazon cart. I keep saying I'm going to pick one up at Walmart, and it never happens. So I figure, okay, well, it's just going to have to be an Amazon purchase. So I'm ready to dive in. I've seen the workouts. I can't wait to share them with our audience. So
love it. I love it. So great.
Okay, so let's talk about the importance of strength training for thyroid patients. Why do you feel this is so important for us as a community?
Yeah, so I think a lot of women are told to pull back on their exercise, to walk, to do yoga, to do Pilates, to stretch, to do kind of like low impact exercise. And I think that is a good recommendation for the women who maybe don't have their thyroid under control yet, and not necessarily control like we're controlling our condition, but like things like they're in a really like acute inflamed state. I think all those recommendations are great for the woman who's like just getting out of bed and going to the bathroom feels like a lot. Those recommendations are perfect. But for the woman who has more energy, who wants to work out but is like a little scared, like if I work out, am I going to injure myself? Sometimes we go to the other end of the spectrum where we're working out maybe too much, like we're overtraining, or maybe we're doing too much cardio and we kind of relapse back into that like really exhausted feeling. And so I think there's a really happy medium between not doing enough and maybe trying to push ourselves too much, and that is through strength training. And there are, not to get too scientific technical, but there are thyroid receptors in our muscle tissue. The muscle tissue is the largest endocrine organ in the body, and to have good thyroid turnover of our thyroid hormones, you have to stimulate the muscle tissue. And I wish it was stimulated in the right way through running and stretching, but it's not. It's through picking up something heavy, contracting the muscle, putting the weight down, and then doing it again. So I think that's why it's so important, and not a lot of women know that. And there's some research on it. There's not a lot, but just stimulating the muscles to start to have good thyroid turnover is so important. And there's such great carryover to the rest of life. Like so many women with kids or grandkids or want to travel, like picking up your suitcase, picking up your kid, it's like, it's going to happen. So might as well do things in your workout that make you better at life. So I'm all about like, let's find the happy medium. Let's find the right dose, because I think for so many women, working out feels like a really big commitment, a big gesture. It has to be this like hour, and really it can be much shorter time. It can be much more focused and not burn ourselves out.
And you can do things like putting your yoga mat and your kettlebell in the same room that you basically live in, as opposed to in the closet or the trunk or wherever you're trying to, put it so it's not out. Like if you keep it visible, you can just grab it, and you don't have to have special clothes if you don't have that, right? If you don't have it ready, or if you feel like that's going to be something that stops you or is a hindrance, don't let it be that. Then just go grab the weights or the kettlebell or whatever it is and put them right there in your den next to your coffee table or underneath it or whatever, so that you can see it, so that you can use it and make it accessible. I think that's one of the things that people make it this big to do.
Yeah.
You have your clothes on and your shoes on, and I'm the same way. I'm the same exact way. You have a cute outfit, and you feel like, oh gosh, not today. But if you have it sitting out in front of you, you're more likely to do it. And if you need to do it while you're doing something else, of course, not ideal. But, if you're listening to music or you're watching the baby swing in the swing, and you need to be in the same room or whatever it is, you can grab your things. You can incorporate it without it being this big, huge commitment. And then once you get that little step in, then it always makes you feel like, okay, well, I did that. So I can probably go online and now do the 5-minute video. And then, I don't know, in a week, I could probably do the 10. And then, you can just implement little bitty steps, and don't make it hard for yourself. Don't hide your tennis shoes up in the closet.
Yes.
Put them right there.
And we all have a different starting point. Like we all have a different baseline. And so even if you don't own a weight, eventually you will. But if you don't, your weight could be like a gallon jug, right? Like that could be your weight that you use, and you can hold it here, and you could sit your hips back as if you're gonna do a squat, and sit it to a chair. Like it doesn't have to look like what it might look like online or on Instagram or Facebook, where like it can be this modified version, but just getting the movements and starting to move our body under load is so important. Yeah.
That's one thing I found different about your videos and programs and your approach is, you know, you're definitely, you're kind of like the kettlebell queen, right? And they're heavy. I mean, I didn't own one before I started, you know, doing your videos. I had to go out and get a 25-pounder, and, you know, my 8-year-old son's like, oh my gosh, Mom, this is heavy. And it is. One of the things I hear you saying over and over is it's less reps and more weight. And you're really, you know, but it was just that one piece of equipment. Now I have it. Now it's like, that's basically it, you know?
Yeah. So I think sometimes as women, we're told to not get bulky, you have to do high reps, low weight. So maybe it's like a 2.5-pound hand weight, but you got to do like 50 reps. And I think especially for the Hashimoto, you know, population and the women with hypothyroidism, we don't need to do that many reps. We can do lower reps with amazing form, and I'm talking like no more than 5. Sometimes even just 3 amazing reps is perfect. But to get the same stimulation as 50 reps with a 2.5-pound weight, you got to lift a little heavier. So I would rather have fewer with heavier and then take a nice long break, because we need that break. Sometimes we feel like just like rolling out of bed can feel like a lot. So I think especially culturally, like taking a break in our workout, like it doesn't happen in a workout class, right? We're like, all right, next one, next move, next dance move. So like taking a 2-minute to 5-minute rest break for most people who also just are like go in their day probably feels very awkward, but is perfect for a woman with Hashimoto's. And we have like all of our tissue is constantly regenerating and replenishing, and our tendons are part of that tissue. But with Hashimoto's, it takes longer to replenish that tissue. There's slower turnover of the tendons. So that's why those long breaks are so essential, because it helps us recover. Versus if you went to maybe a fitness class and it's like 45 minutes straight, like you're gonna feel achy the next day, right? Because you never took a break. But if you do the lift, take a break, like you're getting the right dosing for what your tissue needs, for what probably your adrenals need, so that it's sustainable and it doesn't like totally want to put us in bed for 3 days. So I've done that. I've been that person.
Well, and less really can be more in this situation.
Yeah.
You know, and I really feel like our audience can relate and resonate with that so much. I feel like they can like grab onto this and be like, yes, 3? I can do 3?
Yeah.
And then I take a break.
It's hard to do less sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to do less than it is to do more. And I'm totally that person. I have to over and over tell myself, I'm going to get strong without hurting myself. That means less is more. That means listening to my body. And I know, you know, in our community, we've heard this from people too. And it's like you build a little momentum and then you want to like keep going because you want to feel and see those results. And it's a common frustration for people in our community, ourselves included, to face plan and end up in like a exercise-induced Hashimoto's flare, for example.
And I've done that. Fatigue. I've done it. It's happened, you know, and I'm just like you, Jenny. I want to push. You know, you can't help it. You get that little adrenaline and you know, you just want to push. And so less really can be more. I feel it. You know, I just did a couple of days ago, I hadn't done very much yoga lately. So I just did one full sun salutation. Just stopped down and I just did it. And I could feel it the next day in my arms.
Wow.
I feel it. And it's been a long time. You know, it's been like 3 weeks since I've done anything. And so it's like, okay, so that tells me my body got it. It understood, it heard. I didn't overdo it because it's not terrible. It's like, okay, see, one sun salutation, that was just one. What if I'd have done a whole class and it's been a while? Like I would have been kind of probably overdoing it. And so, you can just start with just one and just see what your body feels like. If you just listen to your body, we hear that and we say it, but do we do it?
Yeah.
Right. Do you have any tips for that phenomenon, Emily, with just having a hard time doing less?
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it perfectly. Less is more, and I think there's for those of us who have experienced pushing ourselves into an exercise-induced flare-up, there's so much almost fear avoidance. Like, ooh, I don't like work out at all because I don't want to like get flared up or I don't want to feel exhausted. And so I think exactly what you're saying, less is more, and baby steps, and literally like taking it day by day. And I think that it's important to clarify that there's like differences in feeling sore from working out, like you use new muscles, which is actually healthy because we're stimulating the tissue, versus like a flare-up feeling. Because a flare-up feeling is like either full body, feeling like boggy, stiff, achy. Sometimes the pain can like move around without any like rhyme or reason. You're like, oh, my shoulder. And then like 2 hours later, you're like, oh my God, both my knees, It just like moves around the body. So that's different than just like your muscles are sore because you use them. And so I think it's important to differentiate, because I think sometimes women who do pick up a weight are not used to like muscle soreness. And it does come with strength training. It's a small sign that you're stimulating the tissue, but it shouldn't feel like achy head to toe, and it shouldn't feel like they like sharp pain moving around the body or like an inflamed boggy feeling. So I think exactly what you're saying, like less is more. 3 reps, take a break. Our mind can wrap around 3 amazing reps. I think it's harder when we can experience fatigue to be like, okay, 3 sets of 10, that feels like a lot. So I think if you did 3 reps, took a break for a couple minutes, did 4 reps and took a break, like that feels tangible, and you're still getting the same physiological effects with the weight.
Okay, so more weight, less reps. What about frequency?
Yeah, so I like to have women start with like 2 times a week, working up to 3 times a week. And that amount gives us plenty of time to recover. So maybe it's like Monday, then you take Tuesday, Wednesday off. Then it's Thursday, you take Friday off. And then you do Saturday. Like that feels digestible, that feels doable, and you're still getting the workout that you need, versus 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Some of us would like to like push and overtrain, and then the week's over and you're like, I can't work out again for like a month because I'm so burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think 2, 3 ideally times a week, 20 minutes. The gym feels like such just like, this grandiose gesture, and it can be 20 minutes, and it can be at home. I think one of the workouts is 30 minutes, but a lot of it was like talking through technique. So most of the workouts are like 20, 30 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes.
I have become a huge fan of, the even 10 to 30 minute workouts. And that's most of our workout videos on Thyroid Refresh. All of our thyroid friendly workouts, we are pretty brief. I mean, some of them are 10 minutes, some of them are up to 30, most of them are somewhere in between, maybe 15 minutes or so. But yeah, it really doesn't take a lot.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great Instagram story or something, Danna, to show like, this is our home gym. It doesn't take a lot. I got a set of weights from Walmart. I got a kettlebell recently, and I have a yoga mat. I have a couple blocks. Like that's it. You don't have to buy this like, like giant
like barbell with like
right.
Barbells and have a whole room dedicated. Mine is behind my couch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, right, just leave it where it's like where you can get to it, where it's accessible, and so it makes it doable. I mean, it's nice to be, have your room all pretty and decorated and all that, and I'm the first to appreciate that. But at the same time, gosh, you're living in your house. You got to live life. You got to do it. You got to make yourself, you got to make it so that you can see it.
Totally. And maybe that's something people can utilize when they're, trying to ease in and build up without overdoing it, is really utilizing that home workout. Because I know when I take the time to get my duds on, my workout duds, go to the gym, drive all the way there, put my stuff in my locker, get all ready to go, I feel like I need to work out for at least an hour. I just have that in my head. I got to do like at least 30 minutes of cardio and 30 minutes of weight training.
Yeah.
For this to be like worth the trip.
Worth the energy.
That's too much.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring out a kettlebell. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
So this is 18 pounds. Okay. So a lot of women will ask me, well, can I use a hand weight? And I'm like, you can use a hand weight, but there's something really cool about a kettlebell. So the way the bell is and the handle, the way you can use it, it creates stability and strength and creates tension in the body without having to like work really hard. And so what I mean by that is like, so if I take the kettlebell, right, and I hold it like this, okay, and my wrist is neutral, without doing anything, I can feel my shoulder packing and stabilizing, okay? But if I hold it like this, so this is bad, don't do this, like I don't feel my shoulder creating integration, right? So if I just simply like curl my hand and make a neutral wrist, I automatically feel my shoulder like go like. So I think it's such a cool tool. And I know for some women it's like, ooh, I don't know about that. But it's such a cool tool because it creates tension in the body without having to like force it.
Good tension. It creates good tension, right?
Good tension, yeah. So that's why I like kettlebells. And they travel easily. I took kettlebell to Brazil, so.
Oh, wow. That's a heavy suitcase.
My husband was like, oh my God, what? We brought him, we went to the World Cup.
Oh, you did?
When it was in Brazil, and I was like, we're taking kettlebells, and he was like, what? I was like, and he was so thankful because he had something to like train with, but carrying the suitcases was like not his favorite job.
Definitely want a roller bag for those.
Right.
Yes, 100%, yes.
So are the benefits of strength training for us just physical? I'm curious about, like, I've been hearing about like the cognitive benefits of strength training and maintaining more muscle mass, especially as we age, and how that becomes harder as we age. And what do you know about that?
So on multiple levels. So the muscle, the meat on our bones, think of it as like your organ to aging gracefully. It's the organ of longevity. And so the people who have less falls and less hip fractures when they're older, there was only one factor that was consistent amongst the people who did not fall and break their hip. And that was the amount of muscle, like their muscle mass. It wasn't what they ate. It wasn't where they were from. It wasn't how much sun they got or vitamin D they had. It was how much muscle was on their bones. And so it's so important to maintain that muscle through what we eat and then through the strength training so that we age gracefully, so we don't get injured, so that we don't have to worry about getting injured. I think one of the other benefits is that cognitive benefit that you were talking about. So there's newer research out. I was just listening to this on a podcast by Tom Bilyeu, where
love him. He is so great. He's so smart. He's so good, and he's so unassuming. I love him.
Yes, I love him too. He was interviewing, I'm forgetting her name, but I'm going to go back and look. I think she's an exercise physiologist, and she was saying that through certain proprioception, which is how it's basically nerve fibers that tell us where we are in time and space. So it gives us like spatial recognition. That through strength training, you're literally telling your brain, like, be strong, like be grounded, be stable, versus an exercise like running or stretching that signals something different to the brain. It doesn't signal to be strong. So I think that's such a cool cognitive, like, body connection. And then I think the other piece is like, how does that carry over into other aspects of her life? I just saw a woman this morning that has Hashimoto's, and she was saying how she reached out to a coworker to connect her with this makeup artist that she adores, and she's a makeup artist. And the coworker was like, yeah, of course, you know, because my patient wants to like be mentored by this makeup artist. And I was like, that's so cool that you like asked to be connected. I bet you wish you had done that sooner. And she's like, I wasn't ready sooner. I was like, I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the strength. I was still sick, you know, because she's like going through her own like Hashimoto's journey. And I was like, so what made you ask? Like now? She's like, well, I'm not as sick and I'm strength training. And I feel like that courage to be able to ask for those kind of things. So I think it's so cool that it translates into other parts of our life.
I just got goosebumps. That's really cool.
It's so true, though. I mean, don't you feel that way, Danna? It's like the inner strength translates into outer strength. I know when I'm strong, I feel more confident. I feel more sexy. I feel happier. I feel just like able to go and do more in a way where I'm not shaky or, whoa, am I going to get hurt? Or, you know.
And even just the way you show up in the world, like your courage just stands stronger. Your body, it's just like you just have that confidence that you can't get with your mind. Like it's this body thing, right? I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that the way you put it, muscle is the organ of longevity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a Dr. Gabrielle Lyon direct quote. So I can't say I came up with it, but but I've learned a lot from her about it.
You mentioned diet. I've heard some experts, you know, toss out rules of thumb, like the whole 1 gram of protein for your per pound of body weight? Or do you have any rules of thumb like that as far as protein or your macronutrients and how you should be supporting your strength training with diet?
Yeah, so I prescribe to the Lyon protocol, and she is obviously what she would call optimal protein. And I think by kind of our societal standards, it would be considered high protein, but she defines it as optimal protein. Protein to get muscle protein synthesis, to stimulate the muscle, and that would be 30 grams of protein per meal. So, you know, a lot of women are like, well, what's 30 grams? 5 to 6 eggs is around like 35 grams of protein. Yeah. So more than you think. Yeah. And, you know, she talks about how plant protein doesn't get absorbed the same way as animal protein. So if you eat 30 grams of animal protein, you're going to absorb a certain percentage, a higher percentage of that protein, versus like a plant-based protein, you're going to absorb a lower percentage of that protein. So you're going to have to eat more to get the same effect as a quality animal protein. So,
and what about like the meal frequency as well? Is it like 3 meals a day or 5 meals a day, you know?
Yeah, so I think just as a baseline, like I think everyone's body is different. And so, you know, like always consulting of like, what's the best thing for my body with, you know, someone's practitioner. I do a time restricted feeding, which could also be, you know, intermittent fasting. And I try to keep my window to about 8 hours of consumption. And then the other 16 is water and coffee. Only like coffee in the morning, but like really water. So I'll have coffee in the morning, but then I probably don't have a meal till like noon. And then I usually finish eating by like 8, probably a little bit earlier. And I think it's important that people aren't grazing. You know, I think it's important to like sit down, be conscious with your food, eat it, go to like not multitask, or not be like walking through the kitchen, like throw something in the mouth and then continue on. And there's lots of different physiological reasons for that. Dr. Lyon would be like way better at talking about that. But I know like, you know, to signal mTOR, to signal certain processes in the body, you want to like not be like eating your protein over like hours. You want to like keep it within I think it was like a 15 to 20 minute window.
Okay, got it. Well, that leads me into another question. One thing about strength training I found is when I'm you know, getting it into it and I'm consistent and putting on muscle, I often see the number on the scale go up.
That's all right.
Like, yeah, I mean, and actually someone made the really helpful recommendation of invest in a body fat scale, you know, a scale that tells you how much body fat you're losing, because maybe you're going to gain some weight, but you're going to actually be building your lean muscle mass and reducing your body fat, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, do you run into that in your practice where, you know, and especially with thyroid issues, man, it's so hard to lose weight.
I know. So I think I haven't worked on a scale in a while, but I think sometimes we marry ourselves to the number on the scale, and just to know that like muscle weighs more than fat. So maybe you use something else as your measure. The ideal measure would be to get on an in-body, which is the scale that you're talking about that like measures your body fat and your water percentage and your lean muscle mass. Like some gyms have them, like so you can see if your local gym has an in-body, you could get on there and see more than just the number on the scale, because your number is going to fluctuate from the morning to the evening, how much water you've drank. But you really want to see in an ideal world that you're gaining muscle, but then losing body fat. That would be like the ideal, right? Not so much the number on the scale. I think the second best gauge, if we can't get on an in-body, is to just like take a piece of clothing and be like, okay, I remember fitting into this and I want to fit into this, and this is kind of like my measure of is it the holidays and like the pants don't fit, or am I strength training and my pants fit? So I know it's hard because scales are easy and accessible, but they're not the best measure of what's going on in the body. So many people who look really fit are really sick. And they look like toned, like you're like, that person's healthy. But if you looked at like the inside, maybe took their blood work, they don't look so good. So I think it's just like keeping that perspective.
That's really, really helpful.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Do you have any advice for people out there who have started doing this, you know, trying to integrate strength training, and then they run into a setback? Maybe it's, you know, an injury because we have more of a tendency towards connective tissue issues and things like that. Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah. I think just going back to the idea of like fear avoidance, like if you're feeling something, like maybe it's you did something and you're like, now your knee hurts. It's not forever. And oftentimes, and a lot of rehab specialists say this, is the weight, like loading with the weight is the best corrective. And like sometimes when things feel tight or they don't feel good, we want to stretch, right? We want to like have someone stretch us. We want to get a massage. And especially what you were talking about with like that connective tissue piece of like tending towards hypermobility, too lax, too loosey-goosey, oftentimes the load can take away your discomfort. You just have to know how to use it. You just have to have the tools of how to use it properly. So I think just keeping a mindset of like, if you injure yourself or you're feeling discomfort, it's not forever. And there's ways to get out of it. You just have to know how. And if something's not working, so let's say you did get a massage and you got stretched and then you don't feel better, then, you know, pivot and try something else. Like if it's not working, try something else.
I like that. I have a quick question. Sorry, I was just going to say I have a quick question. Someone chatted in and wants to know in terms of intermittent fasting, just really quick, what about having a little milk in your coffee? Does that break your fast?
What kind of milk are we talking about?
Well, it's not my question.
I
wait.
Coffee black. But in let's say like ideal world, yeah, you wouldn't have milk. But like if you have a little bit of milk, I don't think it will hurt that much.
Okay.
Any difference if it's like non-dairy, like coconut milk or almond milk or?
Yeah, I think it's important to like. So obviously dairy can be inflammatory. Sometimes I've noticed that women with Hashimoto's having nut milks with shelf stabilizer, like carrageenan in it, really disrupt their digestion.
Okay, good.
Guar gum, like those shelf stabilizers that stabilize the nut milk, like they can get really bloated and like create like similar like feeling like inflamed.
Hey, I never really realized that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting, because I do notice that. And I wondered what it was.
That's why those things are not allowed when you're like on strict autoimmune protocol diet. You eliminate all that stuff. Like you could have straight coconut milk, but not the, the products, the coffee, the coconut milk coffee creamers typically have some kind of thickener in them. And even coconut milk in the can, if you, at our store where I shop anyway, the type I buy is labeled simple, meaning it doesn't have guar gum, because you have to look at those labels. Even just a can of supposedly plain coconut milk often does have guar gum in it.
Yeah. I've had to cut all those things out, like all the like carrageenan shelf stabilizers. I look like I'm like pregnant again, and when I drink that.
Well, and it's like a bloating thing, right? Okay. Well, there we go. Thank you for the question, Div.
Thanks for sharing that insight. Not to put you in like the nutrition hot seat, that's not really your specialty, but we kind of went there, and it's always fun to compare notes with other Hashimoto's patients because we learn so much from each other, and we are all thyroid patients here, so we're living this journey together. So
it's interesting. So like I didn't learn about that until I did a specific test called a lymphocyte response assay, an LRA test. And basically the body has two reactions to something it's fighting, right? If there's like an immediate, almost like an allergic reaction, and then there's a delayed lymphocyte reaction. And for things that are kind of creates more of a delayed response, like that chronic inflammation, will get picked up in that test, that LRA test. And Dr. Lyon ordered that test, and that was the only way I found out, because I don't do dairy, and I was like, woo, like all this like almond, like
almond milk. That's me.
Never known. And like some of the other things, and it's different for everyone, and it includes like chemical compounds and toxins in there. But like olive oil, chocolate was creating like a delayed inflammatory response. So those had to go too, unfortunately.
So tell me, it's a lymphocyte, what did you say?
Response. Assay, like ASSAY, so LRA test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so much, Emily. It's been really so informative, and we so appreciate you being a part of the Thyroid Refresh community and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us and with all of our viewers today. So thank you.
Thanks, guys, for having me here.
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so my name, Dr. Emily Kiberd, KIBERD.com. And if people are curious about strength training, but they're like, I don't know, I'm doing a free live masterclass, just like 3 shifts to make in your workout, living with Hashimoto's. So they can go to dremilykiberd.com/masterclass. And they just join me for an hour, and we'll go through different changes to make in your workouts. And then we'll have a little Q&A session, because I think it's super fun to chat with other women that are going through similar struggles. I think sometimes medicine can feel like removed, like you have to make an appointment to talk to someone, or you have to like I'm here, you're there kind of feeling. Right. And so we'll do like a Q&A session afterwards. And yeah, if people want to join the program, it starts March 2nd. So the doors close March 1st, and then it's like 6 weeks of us all doing the workouts together, because I think community, as you guys are the essence of it, is so important in like helping each other through any setbacks, or get to the finish line, or get to what we dream for ourselves.
It's so true, and for so many of us, I think it's the missing link.
It really is.
To really getting there, and not just implementing changes for 30 days or whatever, but forever, for life, really making this your new normal, so that you can feel better all the time and keep learning. It's a whole mindset shift, right? Being on this healing journey, and we're so glad to be on it together. I'm sure that your webinar and your program, I have no doubt, it's going to be amazing. So congratulations with that. We're working on Emily to get her to create some cool programs for Thyroid Refresh. So we'll keep working on that for you guys too. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone out there watching. And thank you again, Emily, and everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
And happy Valentine's Day early. Okay, bye, guys.
Yay. Yeah.